When Bell Cranel first arrived in Orario, nobody saw him as a future hero. In fact, he seemed like the exact opposite. Weak, inexperienced, naive. Just another adventurer trying to survive inside the dungeon. And if someone had said back then that Bell could one day surpass the greatest heroes in history, most people would have laughed. But there's one detail that completely changes this discussion. Because Bell isn't following the same path as other adventurers. In fact, his growth challenges almost every rule of that world. And that raises an increasingly important question. Can Bell Cranel truly become the greatest hero in history? Or is there still an impossible gap separating him from the legends of the past? When we think about the greatest heroes in DanMachi, a few names immediately come to mind. Albert Waldstein, the legendary adventurers of the past. The figures who left permanent marks on history. People whose achievements continued to be remembered for generations. And for a long time, it seemed impossible to imagine Bell standing beside those names. Because heroes aren't defined by strength alone. They're defined by impact, by legacy, by what they leave behind. And that's exactly where Bell's story becomes so interesting. Because from the very beginning, Bell was never motivated solely by the desire to become stronger. Bell wanted to become a hero. It sounds simple, but that difference changes everything. Because many characters pursue power. Bell pursues an ideal. And perhaps that's what separates him from most adventurers. From the earliest volumes, we see Bell taking risks that make no sense. Facing enemies far above his level. Protecting people he barely knows. Putting his life on the line time and time again. And almost every time, the reason is the same. He believes it's the right thing to do. That might sound naive. But throughout the story, that trait becomes his greatest strength. Because Bell keeps moving forward even when fear should stop him. And he continues believing in others even when giving up would be easier. But there's another detail that makes his journey so special. His growth rate. Because in a world where adventurers spend years trying to gain a few levels, Bell completely breaks that logic. His growth is so extraordinary that it shocks even the most experienced adventurers. And that doesn't happen by accident. The skill Liaris Freese transforms his determination into growth. The stronger his feelings, the greater his motivation, the faster he evolves. And that creates a unique situation. Because Bell isn't simply getting stronger. He's growing at a speed that the world itself struggles to keep up with. But is that enough to make him the greatest hero of all time? Maybe not. Because there's something even more important than power. The challenges that still lie ahead. The dungeon continues to hide mysteries that nobody has fully uncovered. There are threats capable of endangering the entire world. There are enemies far beyond anything Bell has faced so far. And that's exactly why his destiny remains undecided. Because the greatest heroes in history aren't remembered for what they could have done. They're remembered for what they actually accomplished. And Bell is still writing his own legend. But perhaps the most interesting part is something else entirely. The way people have started seeing him. At the beginning, Bell was just an unknown adventurer. Today, his presence inspires allies, motivates adventurers, and attracts the attention of the most important figures in Orario. Little by little, he's becoming more than just Bell Cranel. He's becoming a symbol. And that's something every great hero must eventually become. Because heroes don't just change battles. They change people. They change destinies. They change the future. And Bell has already begun doing exactly that. But there's one comparison that continues to appear among fans. Albert Waldstein. The man many consider the greatest hero in history. The warrior who fought the one-eyed black dragon. The legend whose name survived through the ages. And inevitably, the question arises. Can Bell reach that level? The answer may be more surprising than it seems. Because Bell possesses something very few protagonists have. He hasn't reached his limit. Every time it feels like he's approaching his peak, he finds a new reason to keep growing. A new battle. A new challenge. A new goal. And as long as that continues, his true potential remains almost impossible to measure. So perhaps the real question isn't whether Bell can become the greatest hero in history. Perhaps the real question is, what still needs to happen for that to become reality? Because with every new arc, every new achievement, every new victory, Bell moves one step closer to a place that once seemed unreachable. And maybe that's exactly what makes his journey so fascinating. We're not watching the story of the greatest hero. We're watching the story of how the greatest hero is being created. And if Bell truly overcomes all the challenges still waiting for him, His name may be remembered far longer than any adventurer who came before him. And what do you think? Can Bell Cranel become the greatest hero in the history of DanMachi? Or is there still a massive gap between him and the legends of the past? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.